It's time for Recruiting Better with me, Ben Browning. For ambitious recruiters, it's never been tougher to get seen as a trusted advisor and true partner to your clients and candidates. Join me each week as I address your challenges head-on, answering questions from recruitment consultants and business leaders, and introducing experts you can learn from whether you're looking to scale your billings or your business. So if you're looking for inspiration or insights to help you make more placements, win more new business, find more candidates, or simply replace long hours with smart moves, then stay tuned. Recruiting Better has got you covered. Welcome back to Recruiting Better. It is a hot Friday afternoon here in Haywards Heath, and I have got the fans blowing a cool breeze against my back as I record this episode for you today. I wanted to hop on and share with you something that I'm getting questions about more and more often right now, which is we've looked at through this series business development techniques and strategies, but one question keeps coming up, which is how do I get my clients to care about recruitment, and how do I start conversations that really position me as an expert in my market and in my field and enable me to begin to win those high quality multi-hire type commitments from the companies that I want to target and recruit for. So I want to get into that in a bit of detail today. And the first thing that I want to share, because I'm hearing this a lot at the moment, is the market is in a weird place. It's gone back to, frankly, where it was a couple of years ago. And for more mature kind of recruiters in the market, what we've kind of known historically as being quite common. The job flow has slowed down, I think, for most people that I'm talking to this year. At the same time, candidates are a little bit risk averse, and the candidate pools are tighter than they were in the middle of the kind of salary inflated sort of period of the middle of last year. So what we've got at the moment then is a market that is slightly short on jobs and slightly short on candidates. But we know that any approach to winning business is never going to succeed if we're focused on thinking about our problems. So when recruiters tell me that their market is candidate short or client short, I flip it back to them and say, look, that's your problem. The way you win in business development right now, the way you win in sales in any market is by knowing what's your client's problem. And for as long as there have been recruiters, the talent market has been short on people who can provide real insight and context to the employers they want to work with in order to help them navigate the difficulties that come up when they look to hire or get hired. So whilst it's easy to think about a market being candidate-led or client-led, both of those for me are way too passive. My recommendation to every recruiter, and one of the things that we're going to explore today, is this idea of what does it take to have a consultant-led market. A consultant-led market basically comes down to your ability as a recruiter to do three things. It's the ability to inform your clients around the context in which they sit, the problems that they have, and stuff that they may not recognize going on that is happening within the world of talent and the talent pools that they're trying to fish in. The second thing that you need to do as a consultant or consultative recruiter is to inspire your clients to consider change and think about the impact and the value that change could have on their business. And the third thing is to involve your client in that change, to make them not just the purchaser or the buyer of a change initiative that you go and deliver, but really bring them into collaborating with you. Because it's fundamental for recruiters to really achieve your maximum potential that you are able to collaborate closely with your clients and have your clients actually make it feel like they're even helping you fill their vacancies. That's the only way that you're going to maximize your fill rate, minimize your time to hire, and ultimately exceed all of your clients' expectations, which in turn is the high value, loyal clients that we're all really seeking. So a consultant-led approach is all about informing, inspiring, and involving your clients in a process of change. You might think, and I reckon I probably did as a recruiter, particularly at the start of my career, how can I possibly inform my client? What information do I have? The narrative has changed with this as social media has grown, and certainly, my start in recruitment predated the kind of the widespread use of LinkedIn, right? So you're probably more and more aware of recruiters as thought leaders or people with an opinion that is worth sharing. But the other aspect to this is that you as a recruiter can interview and ask questions of all of the high performers in your industry pretty much at will. You have conversations all the time, every week, with people in your space, asking them questions about what they're seeing, what matters to them, how things have changed, asking them specific questions around data points or pieces of information that you're collating, whacking them into a spreadsheet and creating some patterns or some trends that emerge off the back of those. The opportunity for you to go out and create that information for yourselves is huge. There's also, of course, the opportunity to collate information from other sources by Googling or using ChatGPT to kind of build your resources and understand a little bit more about some of the things that are happening in your market. And clearly, there are things like podcasts and events you can attend to get an even deeper understanding of your market. If you do those three things consistently, talk to your clients and candidates, Google and look at kind of written resources on the internet, and listen to podcasts and attend events and listen to what people are saying within your industry, your ability to collate and curate information from different sources and present that back to your clients in a package in a way that kind of points to suggestions or maybe a hypothesis you have about what's happening is huge. I think every recruiter should be looking to do that on a consistent basis. It's not as hard as it sounds. And actually, if you're nervous about it, building those pieces of insight and building those pieces of information and then asking clients and candidates whether you've captured that accurately, telling them what you've seen and saying, hey, look, this is what I think I understand of the market right now. Does that reflect what you think? And does that reflect what you see? Gives you that opportunity to build a position, build an opinion, but also not lead with this is what's happening, but lead with, is this what you think is happening? Creates more of a conversation too. It reminds me of the great phrase, it's better to be interested than interesting. When you take that opinion out, you should be asking the question, does this chime with your experience? Does this resonate with the things that you're seeing in the market? Or is this opinion kind of different from what you see? The second element of this consulting-led market, this idea of inspiring your clients to make a change and do something differently, largely comes down to your ability to sell. And when I say sell, what I mean in particular is your ability to help your clients identify the real impact of poor hiring on their business. There's a great poem that I share with some of my clients, and I'll share it with you now. It goes like this. It's called For Want of a Nail. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of the horse, the rider was lost. For want of the rider, the message was lost. For want of the message, the battle was lost. And for want of the battle, the war was lost. For want of the war, the kingdom was lost. All for the want of a nail. What that means to me, right, is that your client is thinking about the value of one hire, the next person that they place, potentially a bum on a seat or maybe an important hire, right? They've got that focus. What's that going to cost them? Maybe it's going to cost them £10,000, £15,000. Same time, bad hires lead to further problems down the road. The cost of a bad hire is usually not just the person that you bring in, but the impact on the team, the amount of managers' time it takes away from focusing on supporting the team, the implications on, for example, if they're a revenue generating role, their ability to hit their quota, maybe even if it's to do with the quality in a role that's important. Overall, poor hiring leads to a reduction in that team's quality and ability to deliver projects on time. And in turn, that starts to potentially damage the share price of the business or their ability to satisfy and retain clients. So what started off as one bad hire is actually symptomatic of a bad hiring strategy, which is costing the business potentially millions in turn. And so when you start thinking about the true value of bad hiring, you can start to inspire your clients to think, actually, yeah, this is something we really need to take action around. This is something we really need to take seriously, because every time we go into a hiring process, we're conscious that it's not perfect, that it's got some flaws or some problems in it. We've left those problems unaddressed. We haven't tackled them. We haven't made the necessary changes. And in doing so, we've let this problem kind of drag. What that means is that our teams aren't as well staffed as they should be. Our ability to bring in the best quality people or the right kind of people for our organization is lower than it should be. And in turn, that is compromising the success of our organization overall. What you've done there is you've turned a vacancy, a £10,000 problem, into a £10 million problem when they start to think about the implication on the quality of their business and potentially their share price. Now, of course, the specifics of the problems, whether it's share price or whether it's something else, is going to depend on your market, your clients, your sector. And so segmenting the businesses that you work with to really understand what those particular problems are is a really good strategy. And talking to your market and asking your clients what is the impact of bad hiring on your business will help you create a bit of a picture across the piece. For example, diversity and inclusion might be a challenge for your clients. But what is it about that that's really important to them? Is it just an ethical thing, or is there actually something else behind it that they're concerned about? I worked for many years at EY, and EY have a great position on diversity and inclusion. But that was born partly out of recognizing that the workforce there wasn't massively diverse, and that there were some issues with, or potentially perceived issues, I should say, with the way that they hired and the way that they built teams and the way that they sort of thought about promoting talent internally as well. And as a business who operates on a global scale, who wants to kind of break into emerging markets, and also who wants to advise their clients on building the highest quality teams, it was important that not only were they seen to have a good stance and an effective strategy for diversity and inclusion, but also that they were effective in deploying their own strategy around diversity and hiring from all different kinds of backgrounds and creating diverse teams that promoted the best quality of thinking and agility within their markets. So by going to your clients and talking to them about the true cost and the hidden costs of poor hiring or hiring strategies that aren't optimized for them, you can start inspiring them to think, yeah, you know what? A recruiter can do more for us than simply fill a vacancy. We can actually start seeing some implications, some real impact in the success of our business, the ease with which we manage our business, the quality of our leaders coming through, our brand and reputation in the industries that we serve into. All of those things can be improved by working with the right recruiter. And of course, as you do that, you start to massively differentiate from your competition, and the opportunity there is to win market share and win better quality new business. The third element then is to really involve your client in how you're going to go about that. And that comes from a number of avenues. Partly it comes from your ability to sell, but really it comes from your ability to create a discovery process and a framework that helps you understand what your clients have done before and how they want to change. First of all, getting your client to admit that they've got a problem with the way that they've gone about hiring and the strategies that they've pursued, and then go on to talk about how they can be complicit, how they can be collaborative in terms of turning that around. A collaborative approach to sales is absolutely huge. When you get your client online thinking, right, okay, how can we work with this recruiter to make things better for our business? That's how you start to really, truly create a partnership. And there are simple techniques for doing that. What I recommend is asking a question to your clients that might go something like this. You told me that what you want to achieve over the next 6 to 12 months is X, where X is reducing time to hire or increasing quality of hire or improving diversity of the candidates that they hire. What would you do if you were working with a partner who could support you? What steps would you take internally to make that as successful as possible? What things could you be doing internally alongside a partner to make the change that you want to see or get the results that you're really targeting? And that way you're making them jointly responsible for this. You're saying, yeah, look, we can help you get there, but what will you be doing to help us help you? That involvement, that collaboration, that partnership. The recruiters love to use the word partnership, but how many of you are asking your clients the questions, how can we work together to get these results and to get the results you really seek? When you start doing that, you really bring the idea of partnership and collaboration online, and you also start to position yourself to be able to help your client or guide your client through stumbling blocks that perhaps they haven't considered. For example, they might say, well, we'd love to work with a partner, but we don't really know where to start. And that gives you a great platform from which to say, well, can we show you some of the things that some of our clients have done internally to make our work with them really successful? That way you're really focusing on solving problems by involving your client in the solution. And that in particular is one great way to stop being transactional, selling recruitment, and actually be transformational. And for me, the fundamental kind of definition of being consultative isn't service with a smile, isn't being friendly and having loads of rapport and building relationships. It's actually about a transformational approach to hiring. It's about working with your clients to transform the way they hire rather than to sell them a candidate, but in a friendly, jolly kind of way.
Standing out in your sector is becoming harder than ever. Lots of people are making noise, saturating the market with the same old droll tones. So if you want to stand out, it's time to start a podcast. Yes, there's loads of podcasts out there, but how many of them are actually in your niche? Do any of them speak to your perspective on the market? I didn't think so. Podcasting not only sets you apart as an innovative thinker in your market, it is great content for repurposing. Here at SearchStat, we help you become the voice of your industry. We can stretch your content and turn it into a content goldmine, leveling up your personal brands and recruitment marketing in the process. Sounds good, doesn't it? Well, to find out more, head over to searchstat.co.uk/podcasts.
So let's move on to this idea of the definition or the kind of difference between being transformational on the one hand and transactional on the other. For so long, recruiters have settled for the minimum amount of investment or commitment needed in order to fill a role. But at its core, being consultative and really helping your client, for so long, recruiters have settled for the minimum amount of commitment that they needed from a client in order to fill a role. But being transformational is really about finding ways to get as much commitment as possible, maximizing, optimizing the amount of commitment you can get from a client so that you're in a position to help them change the way they actually go about hiring. And don't get me wrong, getting your clients on board with the idea of transforming the way they hire requires them to invest, not just money, but time and effort. They have to be aligned with your way of thinking. They have to be aligned with that inspiring vision you set for what great hiring can do for them as an organization. And that takes a little bit of work. It takes a great sales process, in particular, supported by great marketing and delivered expertly. But fundamentally, the first thing you have to do is show your client why it's worth transforming the way they hire, and then show them how you can do it. There are a number of different ways in which you can transform the way your clients hire. And whenever I talk to recruitment leaders about this, there's a kind of a concern or a worry that they don't necessarily have the requisite skills, the requisite knowledge, the requisite information to go in and transform the way a business hires. But that's not strictly true. And actually, when we talk about a transformation, which sounds like quite a grand term and quite a bold claim, the reality is that we can make small tweaks, small developments, things that to you as a recruiter will feel really obvious, to many of your clients and the employers that you work with will feel like big shifts and big changes. I'm going to share a few with you now and tell you a little bit about some of the ways in which I see recruiters all the time transforming the way their clients operate. So transformation can start with how you take job briefs. And job briefings, as some of you listened to the show for a long time will know, from my perspective, they just don't work. Job briefing is usually rushed by the client or rushed by the consultant. They don't give you enough information to do the job properly. And what that means is you either don't fully understand the brief, or the client has told you what they want, but they didn't really understand what they really needed. And so therefore you're going out trying to find the wrong thing. And if you're not going out trying to find the wrong thing, there's a very high risk that when you do find what you're looking for, you are overselling it or underselling the opportunity. So you're either looking for the wrong thing, looking for the wrong candidates, or you're selling the role in the wrong way. Not through any deliberate fault and not through any lack of skill, but just through a lack of time and understanding invested in that process to really get a strong handle on exactly how this opportunity would best be described. And if it's not those two things, if you're finding the right candidates and you're selling it in the right way, how often do you actually find that the selection process, the assessment process, the series of tests and interviews and questions, and the way that your client makes their decisions is actually effective for understanding who's the best suited person for a role? A different question that helps shine the spotlight on this is, when was the last time that your client overhauled or reviewed their assessment strategy for candidates? And if it was pre-COVID, if it was more than 2 or 3 years ago, then your client may have some huge transformations they can make simply by thinking about, what does the interview process look like in 2023? Let's take video interviews, for example. There's absolutely no reason why video interviews need to happen a week apart. Face-to-face interviews, absolutely, you needed a week between rounds. Why? Well, because if I was a candidate going off for an interview and I told my boss that I needed to take an hour out of the office because I had a doctor's appointment, I couldn't very well then say I need to take an hour out of the office the very next day. But if I'm at home, working from home, doing interviews over Zoom, there's no reason why I couldn't take an hour at one lunchtime to do an interview, an hour the following day to do an interview. Potentially, I could even do one at lunchtime and one in the evening. There's no reason why those interviews need to be over such a long period of time. And you might say, well, my clients need that duration to make their decision. Reality is, when we're talking about the hireable candidates and moving them from one stage to the next, that decision doesn't need to take a week. In fact, if your clients are saying it does, then they're probably doing something wrong in the way they're determining between candidates. So when you think about assessment processes, selection processes, so much has changed in the world of interviews and the way we think about the structure of interviews, but so few employers have actually applied that logic, that thinking, to the way they approach assessment strategies. So let's just take that one element then. In the job briefing, instead of running off looking for the wrong thing, selling the role the wrong way, and assessing and then feeding candidates into a process that assesses them in an ineffective way, you can actually sit with your client and say, let's get this right from the outset. Let's take benchmarking data from all the hires we've ever made in this particular industry. So I've got a client who has got an intern starting with him next week, and that intern is going to be reaching out to all of their previous clients, talking to them about the hires that they've made historically and seeing who the top performers have been, and then pulling those profiles and looking at running some analysis on what those high performers have in common. And you could do this for your clients too. You could feed back information about the placements you've made in the past and what it's meant, or what high performers have got in common in terms of traits in their profile. So that's just one way in which you can think about transforming hiring. The other, of course, is the idea around all the context you can give around diversity, even around the use of technology, different assessment strategies, different types of techniques for that. But also, what about video content through the process, marketing content through the process? In the world of sales, we think about buyer's journeys more and more. And if you haven't already started thinking about that in recruitment, then you absolutely should. The buyer's journey, for example, might be the touch points, or might include the touch points between a sales conversation at the start of the process and a conversation, a discovery meeting in the middle, and then a final proposal at the end. In the world of recruitment, that process maps to a screening call, a first interview, a second interview, and then maybe a final. how many recruiters are sending candidates marketing information or brand information or personal information about the panel of people they're going to be meeting or the team they're going to be meeting with throughout the interview process. So let's say I come back from a first stage interview with a hiring manager. First of all, it'd be great to get a video link to conversation and the feedback with the actual person who interviewed me to see what they said, not just have a secondhand report from my consultant, but actually a video feedback kind of from the hiring manager themselves. It might say something like, hey, look, it was great to meet you. I think you did excellently on these 3 points. I'd like to find out a bit more about this particular thing, and that's why I want to introduce you to my colleague John as the next stage of the process. What that candidate might also receive is a video from John saying, hey, looking forward to meeting you. Anna told me that you did really well on these 3 things. We're looking for a bit more detail on this thing. Just so you know, my background is I worked here and here. I'll tell you more about that. If you've got any questions, feel free to bring them. But I'm looking forward to meeting you and seeing if we might be the right kind of fit for you as an employer. And so now the candidate's getting video content or even written content from the business that they're applying for, and their buyer's journey in terms of their, as a candidate, making decision who they want to go and work for. Effectively, their candidate experience journey is so much enriched by these touch points between the stages. And whilst that might feel like a little thing, right, just a little nudge in the right direction, at the same time, that is going to transform candidate experience, which in turn is going to have huge implications for your client's confidence about how they hire and the way in which they're kind of evolving their go-to-market strategy when it comes to bringing in talent. So a few things to kind of summarize this episode. First of all, it's not about your problems. Your market may be candidate short, it may be client short. That isn't the definition of your market. Every market right now is short on consulting. Every market right now is short on insight and context and the information that employers need to update their approach to hiring. That positions you uniquely to become not just transactional, but really transformative. And in order to help your client transform the way they go about hiring, you need to first be able to inform them, show some credible data, pull some analysis, share it back to them. Secondly, inspire them with a vision for what great hiring can do for their business. And then thirdly, involve them. Involve them in collaborating with you in getting the results that they want to see and being the change that they want to see in the world. In terms of the tactical nature of the transformation that you might help them make, there are loads of different areas. In fact, I created a cheat sheet for one of my clients. So drop me a DM on LinkedIn or drop me a note if you want to see a copy of that. But both key areas to focus on will be the job brief, the key elements there in terms of the definition of the role, how you bench that against the market, how you sell opportunities so you don't under or oversell the role, and how you assess talent. Because all 3 of those things have changed dramatically in the last couple of years, and most of your employers, most of your clients won't have kept up. And beyond that, there's a whole world of insights around technology and diversity that you can be providing that will really help your client make the best of hiring and protect their share price. So instead of you being the person who is selling nails, you're actually showing to your clients how you can protect their kingdom. So look, I hope you found some real tactical and useful advice here about what it really means in 2023 to be consultative, how to approach being kind of consultant-led in a client short and candidate short market, and how to kind of turn that to your advantage. The whole model around inform, inspire, and involve, and thinking about the way that you can transform your client's approach to hiring is designed for this market right now. The market's splitting into some businesses are going race to the bottom, lowering their fees, providing services that are high volume, low touch, really easy to replicate, really easy to automate, really easy to outsource. The remainder of businesses are pushing their prices up. They're doing more for their clients. They're creating more value. They're tackling thornier, bigger problems. The ones who get caught in the middle are the ones I'm really worried about. So if this sounds like a strategy that you can deploy, go out there, use it, get stuck in. Let me know how you get on. And if you found this episode of the podcast useful, then please hit follow and do drop us a review. Everything that you share in terms of feedback is greatly received, whether it's 1 star or 5 stars. We're always looking to evolve and upgrade the podcast to another level. So any feedback you can leave will be greatly appreciated. Until next time, take care, have fun, and go be transformational.